What's up? Calvin Barbell, calvinbarbell.com. Today I'm going to talk about the cultural differences you'll see when you're travelling. So for example, I'm going to be from Scotland, which is in United Kingdom, and then going to somewhere in Southeast Asia, which is like Vietnam and Thailand. So the first one I'd say would be like obviously culture, so like religion. So in Thailand and Vietnam, they used to be very Buddhist, but it's kind of going a bit more Christian now. And Thailand's actually very religious, so they have a lot of temples. They always like bow like this, and it's called the Y. And that's their belief, very religious. I don't know too much about Buddhism fully, but it's basically like you believe in like karma and I think like reincarnation. So you don't, so like I'm Catholic for example, so we believe that when you die you either go to heaven or hell, right, depending on how naughty or nice you were. And Buddhism, they believe that the life, it's an Indian religion, so it started in India and then it came to like China and all across Asia, so it's really big. And they believe like you'll always be reincarnated depending on how you acted in your previous life. So if you were like really good and you were a really nice person, then you'll be like reincarnated into like, I don't know, a successful millionaire or something like that. Like you'll get rewarded or something in the next life. That's what they believe. Or if you're like a really bad person, you'll be like reincarnated as like a bug or something, like something crazy like that. It'll be but it's kind of switching towards more Christianity, because I noticed that when I was teaching some students, it's shifting more towards Christianity in South Asia, East Asia, like parts of China, Taiwan, Japan. Japan actually used to be Shinto and Buddhist. They still have a lot of shrines and temples, because I teach a lot of Japanese students, teach them English, so I know a bit about their culture as well. So it's all really interesting. So first one is religion, plays a big role I think, in a lot of the countries. And just oh shit, I'm supposed to be walking on this. But anyway, it'll play a part in their lives, and a lot of the time their happiness as well. You know, they don't need money as long as they've got a family and religion, they're sorted. So that's the first one. The second one is same with culture. It's culture shock. So it's actually a very real thing where it's very psychological, and your brain is being like hardwired to predict people's movements because of where you grew up. So for example, if I'm from the UK, trying to figure out what happens. So I'm on the UK, so people have a certain walk, okay, people have a certain like body language to them, and your brain will have picked up on that growing up, and it's adapted to it, so it's kind of like a self-defense mechanism where it'll predict what the person does next. Are they stopping? Are they getting ready to run? Are they getting ready to fight? Are they in danger or need help or something? But whenever you go to like a country that's like I said, a good while away, they all have a different walk, and you actually notice that a little bit. it doesn't like stand out. It's not like, whoa, they walk weird or something, but you notice that they walk different. And even if the place is safe, like Thailand's like a really safe country. Like you can walk pretty much any part of Thailand to any time of day, even as like a girl, and you'll be safe. Like it doesn't happen, and I'll get onto that in the next point. But yeah, culture shock is very psychological, and people, like for example, like back home you'd be like, alright, like hello, what's up? But here they're like that, so it's like the opposite. So we would be like that, but they'd be like this, and it's a very non-confrontational society. They don't like confrontation. So for example, if it was like meetings or something, they would organise it beforehand, like the deal. It was like a business deal, businessmen. So when they meet in person to sign the papers, it's just like all smiles and yes, okay, good, thank you, and smile and sign the papers, and that's them. Because they don't want like disagreements and confrontation and conflict, you know, they want to avoid that at all costs. So that's why they would sort everything out beforehand on emails or whatever, and then they would meet just to agree, shake hands. So that's another big part, and it's really interesting as well. Like over here, the weather, the food, diet's very different, you know. So if you're trying to get protein in, yeah, you won't actually be stuck for that, because they do a lot of white fish, which is great. They do a lot of chicken, pork, egg, and then obviously like hundreds of rice and noodles. So it's like really healthy food, which is good for your bodybuilding, you know. If you're really into your fitness or your bodybuilding, that'll be really good for that. So you won't be stuck for any of that stuff. So yeah, that's the other thing is with their culture, you know, culture shock, body language and the way they walk, and they're just made different. Like their build is obviously a lot different to ours as well. So next point will be personal space. Okay, so back home we would we really value this, right? So it's just logical to us. Like we just think, like, you know, if I'm walking here, okay, and someone else is walking the other way, it makes sense for them to go on the opposite side of the road, or the pavement, or the sidewalk. It makes sense for them to use the other side. But in Asia, personal space doesn't exist. So you could have like 60 foot of space, and you'll literally have somebody walking your way, like literally towards you, and it doesn't make sense. I don't know why. And you know, I've been here almost a year now, and you know, you're not going to move out everybody's way just because they're not going to move it. You know, you get fed up of that after a while, you know. So eventually you're just going to keep walking in a straight line, and they'll either move last minute or they'll just bounce off you. if you're like a big guy or whatever, you know, chances are it's gonna be awkward. It's gonna be awkward. But they don't mean anything by it. It just doesn't exist here. It's just not part of their. They just don't. I don't know if it's because it's such a populated country, very populous, that they have to make do with their space. Like I came across that once when I was in Laos with my friend at the airport, and there was a lot of Chinese. There's a lot of Chinese tourists there, and you had lanes to queue before check-in, and we were just my friend and I were in one lane, and there was another lane that was free, and the guy could have walked that way, but he just decided to walk right through us, like in between me and my friend. Like just, and we both just stood there, so he just bumped off both of us, and he just kind of awkwardly slid by and was like, oh, sorry. And it was like, you have another lane there, mate. It's like open and nobody's there. You can just go that way. But like I said, here it just doesn't exist, especially in, you know, in China or in East Asian countries is very populated, so they're just like very scrunched in, and they're all just used to just bumping in, and you know, it's not really personal if they bump into you or something like that. I wouldn't take it personally. They just don't pick up on personal space. It's just a Western thing, I think. Actually, it's just something that we value. What else? Oh yeah, so beauty standards as well, right? So especially with women, like they really value white skin. So naturally over here, people are obviously, they're not white like us. They're like, you know, different colour, like tanned, a bit more tanned, and they value really white skin. It shows beauty, it shows wealth, something that was like with us like 100 years ago. You know, like everybody used to like powder their face white and stay indoors, because if you were really tanned, that meant you were out in the sun a lot, which meant you were poor, because if you were out in the sun a lot, you were working as a farmer or like a street sweeper or something. So they would associate that with all that stuff. So they really do that. It's like the gold standard. It's like if you're like a white Thai, you know, that's like, whoa. You know, like if you're dating a Thai girl that's tanned, she'll most likely not think she's as hot as you think she is, because she thinks she's not as hot. Because it's the opposite. It's the same back home. Like everybody wants to get tanned back home. Like everybody goes for sunbaths. They're risking bloody skin cancer, and they're really wanting to get like a nice glow about them, you know. And like for me, example, like I'm super white. Like I'm like Casper the Ghost White, right? And it's like everyone's like, are you okay? Are you okay? Do you get out enough? Like, yeah, I get enough fresh air. I'm out, you know, Scotland, it's not exactly a super sunny country anyway. You know, it's very cloudy, and like our summer is like 25 degrees for like 2 weeks, and we're all going crazy taking our tops off and getting on the suntan lotion. That's like winter here. So when I come over here, they're like, oh my god, I love your skin. Like, what do you do? Exist? Don't do anything. And the other funny thing about the skin is that when I was by the pool the other day, and I kind of got like, you know, your shoulders always get burnt, you know, because the sun always beams down on them. They're the first spots to get burnt and then turn into tan or whatever. A lady at the shop was like, oh, have you been drinking? Because with Asian, they get this Asian flush or Asian glow or something, I can't remember what it's called, and like their face goes kind of red when they drink, or their skin goes kind of red when they drink, so they think you're like intoxicated, they think you're like drunk or you've been drinking. It's like, no, I've just been out in the sun. Like we burn. I'm super white, I burn. I didn't put on any suntan lotion. I'm an idiot. Which is actually quite funny, because when I was teaching English in Vietnam, because we used to work mornings and evenings basically, so you had like the whole afternoon to yourself. So we would go down to the beach and just like chill or whatever. And then obviously if you're out in the sun, you would maybe get a bit red from the sun, and they thought that we'd been drinking like the whole afternoon, and we're turning up to class drunk or something, you know, teaching the kids drunk. And it's like, nah, we're just white, we just burn. You know, Asian, their skin's different, so they obviously just assume that from what happens to them. So yeah, that's quite a few points, because I'm writing about this in my blog. I'm trying to see if I've got any more points, because it'll be on my blog on cavinbarbell.com. So I've already put it all together, so I'm just trying to say it out loud in conversation style, chatting to you like I was your friend or something. I'm just trying to chat casually about it. Yeah, culture shock, personal space. Yeah, well, the driving, I mean, look at the roads here. See? You can't really, it's not really busy. You can't really see much, but it's mainly like motorcycles, and the roads are, yeah, you can see some. See? But the roads are pretty crazy here, man. Like Thais drive pretty reckless. Like it's not uncommon to see, and it's fact. Like everybody knows it. It's not. I'm not saying anything by that, but it's not uncommon to see like a motorcycle and have like 4 people on it. You'll have like the whole family and the dog and the cat on it. You know, you'll literally have like mum, dad picking the kids up from school. So you'll have like, you know, a couple of kids or whatever, and then the dog on it as well, and it's crazy. It's just like, oh my god, like kids aren't even wearing a helmet. But yeah, it's just very, very different. As I say, that's just another thing. Just, you know, roads, and they're just not outlined like ours back home. They're just different, and again, it's more populated, it's more busy, and things like that. It's a bit more, I would say it's actually a bit more lawless. So take that for what it's worth. If it's, well, actually there's a sign there, see, telling you to go 30. Can you see it? Yeah, 30 sign telling you to go 30 miles per hour. So there you go, there's some health and safety for you. So yeah, family's also a big one, which I really admire and respect over here, you know. Family's very important, as it should be anywhere, but here especially, you know. You see it as well even in the marketing and like their ads, like adverts and commercials. You'll see like everything, even if it's like a billboard or like a picture of plaster or something, like everything will be around, rotating around family. So even if it's like a bank commercial, it's like a family looking for a house, or, you know, looking for that mortgage for that house together. Or even if it's like a yogurt or something, it's the kids playing and running in the fridge to get the yogurt and the mum's giving it to them, or something like that, you know. So yeah, they're all really, really tight, and they always really, I think they're always like really involved with one another, which is good. I mean, it can be a pain. I mean, we all know what it's like growing up, like you're like, oh my god, mum and dad, get off my back. But they're just doing that. They're just doing that because they love you. They're just doing that because they care. So it's better they do that than not care. So yeah, families is a big one here. They also have a lot, you know, and they don't really, they just, everyone, you know, like their auntie, uncle, cousin, nephew, all that stuff, you know, everybody gets involved. And food is also a big one, you know. Food's like a big celebration, you know, like they always share food at the dinner table. It's you know, like back home you would just have your plate and that's your food, and you eat off your plate and they have their plate. Your mum has her plate, your dad has his plate, you have your plate. But like here it's like, I noticed that as well, like even in like, that's the other thing, like bars and nightclubs, they still serve food till like 10 PM, like hot food, and then they serve like fruit throughout the rest of the night with like your beer. And like insects as well, actually, that's quite popular here. They're actually quite tasty, quite high in protein. So get yourself some insects, if it doesn't like rumble your tummy too much. But yeah, no, food is a big one. They share everything, so they would rather like, so what are you having? Like, so we'll have 1 plate of pork, 1 plate of fish, 3 plates of rice, another plate of noodles, and they all just mix and match with their chopsticks. They just like pick and choose off one another. It's not like, hey, keep your fingers off of this, this is like my plate, this is what I'm doing. They just see it as like sharing everything basically, you know. So that's quite nice as well. and the food is super tasty. I think I've mentioned it already. Like it's really delicious. Even just like the sauces, it's like really authentic, and it's super cheap. It's like really good price for what you're getting, you know, and super healthy as well, obviously. So yeah, anything else to cover off? I think that's all the points. Yeah, that was it. So yeah, thanks for watching, and be sure to subscribe and check out my blog, kevinbarber.com. Thank you.